Hello there. Oh, hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome everybody to video blog number 2 with Jeffrey Bentley on little intro to voice acting. And yes, so let's get on with it. For today's subject, we are doing something called 4-hour voices. And before we get into that, I just want to thank everyone who watched my first video blog. You know, really appreciate it. You know, leaving comments and likes and sharing and so on. I can't thank you enough. And they were asking, when's video 2 happening? Well, it's happening right now. And for those of you who missed video 1, I will introduce myself. My name is Jeffrey Bentley. And the last time I introduced myself, I said I have done musical theater for 16 years and legitimate theater for 11. 11 was a lie, and I've actually been doing legitimate theater, straight plays, for 13 years. And why did I say 11 last time? Because I was nervous. It was my first blog ever. So, moving on. And, you know, nerves get the best of you. That's what happens, outside and inside the booth. What you gonna do? But they do say, you know, the infamous they, always say that you're you're not ready unless you're a little bit nervous. So there you go. But uh, you know, starting over, musical theater for 16 years, legitimate theater for 13 years, film for 7 years, and voiceover for 3. So that's a little bit about me, and let's move on to today's subject, which is 4-hour voices. Now, a lot of people are, you know, they're always questioning when it comes to voice acting, especially the subject of 4-hour voices. You know, what the heck is that? Well, a voice, you know, a 4-hour voice is a voice that you can do for 4 hours or more without straining your vocal cords. For instance, I mentioned Mel Blanc last time in my first video, where this blanket was actually lying down, and now I just call it my tapestry, if you will. But Mel Blanc did the voices for all the Looney Tunes, even the ones you don't see here, all the male voices from you know, Tweety, Sylvester, Porky, Daffy, Bugs, Foghorn Leghorn, Elmer Fudd, Yosemite Sam, and Marvin the Martian. You know, just a great guy. But he could do that without straining his vocal cords. I mean, the man's range was amazing. If you haven't seen, you know, the one with the opera singer, it is absolutely fantastic because that's him singing. That's still him, and you obviously can tell that he wasn't straining at all because he was having so much fun, you know, switching from one character to the next. But here's the thing uh, that everyone misinterprets when you tell them that you're a voice actor. Everyone believes that voice actor, the definition of voice actor is impersonator or a mimic. Not true. Not everyone can mimic the great voices that you grew up with or are still listening to. Not everyone can mimic Peter from Family Guy or, you know, way back Yogi Bear. Not everyone can do that in the voice acting industry. Because, you know, here's usually how the conversation goes. They say, "Oh, well, what do you do?" "Oh, I'm a voice actor." "Oh, really? Do Porky Pig. Do SpongeBob. Do Shrek." And that's when you get backed into a corner. It's just like, no, sorry, so sorry about that, because that happens a lot, you know. But for those of us who can mimic, we have to make sure we can mimic properly. And when it comes to mimicking properly, I'm talking about vocal strain. If you cannot do a solid mimicked voice, or even a voice that you think you're really good at, if you cannot do it comfortably for 4 hours or more, you're hurting yourself as well as hurting your career. Because what kind of career is it where you go out of your way to, you know, satisfy somebody else while hurting yourself? Why would you do that physically on the job? You know, say for instance, you know, common job. Say you work in a warehouse. I used to work in a warehouse where it was a giant refrigerator, like helping break down cheese all day. I was on the brink of pneumonia because I went there every day, as much as I could. You know, I say I worked there for at least 3 weeks. I was on the brink of pneumonia because they wouldn't allow us to have bottled water on the floor. True story. And after the doctor's appointment, they were asking me to come back. I'm just like, are you kidding me? So if you know, if you did that in a regular job and, purposely hurt yourself to get the money for a bill, you get the money, you hurt yourself, you get the money, you go to the doctor to heal yourself, and then repeat. Why would you do that to yourself in that kind of physical job where you're running around in a refrigerator all day? And, you know, why would you do it to yourself in the vocal booth as well? Why would you do that to your vocal cords? Say for instance, a lot of people try to mimic Kevin Conroy's Batman. With that deepness of I am Batman. I am the darkness. I am the night. I am Batman. See right there. Even in mine, I was straining a little bit. I didn't strain a lot because I've practiced and I can't quite do it as well as I can do Mark Hamill's Joker. That's a completely different uh, different range, obviously, but I can't get the gruffness, the forcefulness that Kevin Conroy can, really deliver to all of us in a believable tone too. You have to be believable. You can't just do a funny voice and then have people go, "Oh, that's great," and now read this line for me. And here's a great story, too. When it came to replacing the Looney Tunes characters after Mel Blanc passed away, the first time that they really had to do it was in the movie Space Jam. They had small cartoons before then with someone else doing the voices, but when it came to the big one, the big character voices for Space Jam, when they were replacing all these guys after Mel Blanc passed away, Bob Bergen took over the voice of Porky Pig and Tweety. He said that when they auditioned, the casting directors asked them to quote Shakespeare while in the character voices. That's how they challenge you. They didn't ask them to, do the standard, that's all, folks, or, I thought I saw a police hat. Didn't ask them to do that. They challenged them to read Shakespeare in these voices, and they got the job. That's all there is to it. So, challenge yourself before you go into like making a demo or anything like that. Find a voice that you can do where it doesn't strain your vocal cords, because why would you do this to yourself? You go in, you do a voice that someone asks for, that's straining your vocal cords, but you go and you use that money to pay the hospital bills to keep your voice, vocal cords healthy, to go back in, get the money, give it to the doctor, and keep doing it all over again. What about what about the fact that you're earning this money to do things that you want to do? Say for instance, the small things, getting groceries, getting food for your family, getting food for yourself. Maybe you want to go out and get a corn dog, but maybe you want to get a great corn dog from Wiener Schnitzel. Sometimes the simple things are the greatest things if you think about it. But say for instance, you go out, you get the food, you get the groceries, and then you're set. And you go out and you maybe get something for entertainment, or the big things like family vacation or a vacation with friends who have become your family. For instance, I went with these great guys for on a trip to Disneyland. 4 guys, just the four of us on spring break way back in 2007. And it was a fantastic trip, 4-day park hopping pass for both parks, Disney California Adventure and Disneyland. And we dressed in our suits one night for downtown Disney. It was amazing. But we obviously had jobs that didn't strain us in order to do that. You know, so you have to think about these things. And what about the essentials too? What about the essentials that we don't want to think about? When we're kids, we don't think about it, and when we're adults, yeah, when we're kids, we don't think about it, and when we're adults, we definitely don't want to think about it. The electricity, the water, the trash, the phone bill, the internet, etc. This is where you really have to focus on what you're good at in the vocal booth. If you want to get into this industry, make sure your vocal cords are always healthy.
And you can do a voice. For instance, I can do this probably for, I don't even know how long. It's not hurting me.
Or maybe if I go deep, it's still in the naval? Naval officer. No, nasal cavity. But this sort of voice, very smooth, even though it's deeper, it's still right here. It's not in the back of the throat where you're getting cut off. You can, do that. Why would you do that to yourself? Why would you do that with any job, where it affects you so physically that it, also mentally exhausts you, and so on and so forth? You're not using the money that you're earning towards things that you want to pay off. Say, for instance, credit cards. Where's that money going to go? It's going to keep going to your hospital bills. Don't do that to yourself. Find a voice that you can do for 4 hours or more that is really solid. And here's the thing, if you are not good at mimicry, I mean, if you heard my impressions just now, some of them, sound good. Some of them I can't nail as well as someone else. That's all right. Here's a great thing you can do when it comes to mimicking or, coming up with new voices, which is what a lot of people prefer in character voice acting. You can mimic if they're asking for that specific job. They're asking for a specific voice. Can you mimic this? That's one thing. But when you go into the booth, for a professional demo to be made, here's the thing you need to do. Create. Make sure you have a list that you have possibly created from inspiration and go in with a solid attitude of these are my original creation, you know uh, of voices, my original creations that I based off of inspiration of somebody else. For instance, my very evil voice, I guess you could say, when I do an evil laugh, is based off of Tim Curry. Tim Curry's got one of the greatest laughs, ever when it comes to being evil, if you will. And it's just, you find me repulsive. But I didn't go full Tim Curry. Mix yourself into it as well. Original, what is original nowadays anyway? But get as original as you can with creating stuff. And if you cannot nail a certain voice, don't worry about it. This is one of the greatest things I've heard when it comes to creating characters, and especially creating a character demo that you want to show somebody. A bad impression equals a new voice. Two of the greatest voice actors that I've come across when they're being interviewed is Jim Cummings, who was recently in Christopher Robin as the voice of Winnie the Pooh. And guess what? He's been Winnie the Pooh ever since Sterling Holloway passed away. From like the 80s onward. He's also been many other voices, but everything that Pooh has been involved with, he has been the voice for Winnie the Pooh in the animated series. Every animated movie, ever since Sterling passed away. But he's also been in every video game. He's been the voice of every Pooh Bear toy. And now he has been the voice of Pooh Bear in the live action version of Pooh. Do you know how rare that is? That is nuts. And that is so awesome too. But he's the one who first said in one of his interviews that a bad impression is a new voice. Fantastic man. If you haven't looked up Jim Cummings, he has been in practically everything from Goof Troop to Chippendale Rescue Rangers to, the many adventures of Winnie the Pooh to Road to El Dorado to Aladdin. He's just absolutely fantastic. But a great message to pass along to people who are afraid that they're not going to be a good vocal match or a good, you know, impersonator or, good at mimicry, if you will. Take a step, take a step back, breathe, and remember a bad impression equals a new voice, and bring that with you into the booth. Another, the other person I want to talk about is Hank Azaria. Absolutely wonderful. You know, he every performance I've seen him do, he's just molds straight into it. Even, the bad Godzilla movie that everybody talks about with Matthew Broderick, he even, went all out with that character. But everything he does, I really enjoy his performances. And as we know in the voice acting world, not only was he Bartok, in the Anastasia movie, but he has also been the voices, you know, the majority of the voices, along with Dan Castanella, on The Simpsons. And also, Nancy Cartwright, can't go wrong. The great voice of Bart Simpson and Nelson, and even like Maggie Simpson, she does that too, and Ralph Wiggum and everything like that. But Hank Azaria has, done stuff from Apu, thank you, come again. That's been him, and I heard they're taking him away after what? How many seasons does The Simpsons have? Seriously, whatever. And so he's done Apu. He's been Chief Wiggum. He's been
Professor Frink, who was, based off of Jerry Lewis, from the original Nutty Professor movie.
But, obviously he goes over the top. It's like, Hoyven Glaven! And then, there's obviously more. Oh, he's the voice of Mr. Burns and Smithers, talking to himself all the time, and he earns a living at it. So, but with that, just those, little bits of characters that he's done, he said that every character he has played is a bad impression of someone else. A bad impression equals a new voice. All of a sudden, you got a career. That's what people don't realize. First the people don't realize that a lot of us are not impersonators, and those of us who are impersonators sometimes are really bad at impersonations, but a bad impersonation equals a new voice equals a career. So take that in, breathe it in, and just take it easy. Take it easy on yourself too. Like I talked about, that physical strain, goes along with mental strain, and be nice to yourself. Honestly, it's okay to not be on it, being, all the time. It's okay to just be yourself too. I mean, I was recently in a great short film called Pharaoh, and this is so funny too. It's a student film, and I'll post it in the comments down below for those of you who want to watch it. But it's an amazing short film, 5 minutes long. Just take 5 minutes out of your day and just enjoy it. And really get a sense of what they're going for, because it's absolutely fantastic. But the notes that they gave me, the two directors, uh, they said, okay, so here's the heretic. Now, I originally tried out for the Vizier and I didn't get him. He's a very very slow talking Vizier, very like a grandfather type character, and I didn't get him. But they said they liked me so much that they wanted to add more lines to the heretic that was being pushed around by the Vizier. And I'm just like, yeah, sure, I'll do it. And so one of the first notes they gave me was, could you give us, he's like, you're on the right track of the suffering, and everything like that of this guy, but could you give us more of a suffering Mr. Incredible type of delivery? When he believes that he lost his family and he's lost everything and everything, when it comes to Incredibles 1. And I'm just like, yeah, sure, absolutely. So I do that delivery, and they said, okay, you know, I can't even tell you how many times I turned it in, you know, just to get an okay. But then they went in a different direction and they go, okay, that was really good. You got the suffering, you got the Mr. Incredible down. So now here's a footage from Game of Thrones from, Peter Dinklage. And we want you to do this when he's, standing in front of the whole court and going off at him, if you will. And I'm just like, okay. There was a lot of okay moments behind the scenes in this film, but it turned out great. So when you're watching it, when it comes to the heretic, just remember somewhere between a suffering Mr. Incredible and Peter Dinklage going off at the people in Game of Thrones, this is the result you get with the heretic when you're watching Pharaoh. So just little things like that can create um, such a big difference, and it really stretches you too as an actor when they give you notes like that. It's it's nuts. It's really nuts. But I obviously in the movie I don't sound like Mr. Incredible or Peter Dinklage. I sound like myself, but the delivery is there. And just like when they asked people trying out for the Looney Tunes to speak Shakespeare, the delivery is there. You have to deliver something solid in order for them to want to come back to you, and it's a really cool feeling. But I will say one more thing about Hank Azaria too. Even with his live action characters, he was in a series in the '90s when Seinfeld was popular, called Mad About You, and he played the dog walker. And he said, when it came to the dog walker, he was a bit more airy than, because Bartok the bat, he was a bit more up here. Oh, that fell right out there, sir. But this one, he has a bit more airy, vocal tone to him. He's like, hey here, ho there. He based it off of a guy he knew, and he didn't tell him. He didn't tell him that. But the guy apparently he like ran into him and like on the street in New York, and the guy shook Hank's hand and he's just like, "Boy, that's a great character you're playing right there on that Mad About You. Yes, a very good character. I really enjoy him. You keep doing what you're doing. You're very funny." And to this day, Hank has not told him that he based that character off of him. So you never know. You never know how people are going to react when it comes to um, them being an inspiration to you, if you will. Because a lot of times people misinterpret that as you're making fun of them. But the more over the top your impression of somebody is, the better your impression will be. Take, for instance, everybody tries to do Smeagol from Lord of the Rings. Sometimes it's Smeagol, Gollum, for those of you who are Lord of the Rings fans. And but think about it. The more over the top you do it, it's like, lots, 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 lots. And my precious. That right there, too, was still in the nasal cavity. Always get out of the back of your throat. If you do a voice in the back of your throat, you're doing it wrong. And where are you going to end up? In the hospital, paying for your vocal health. So, but when it comes to Gollum, when it comes to Arnold Schwarzenegger is a big one. Even though people, you haven't seen much of people doing Arnold in years, but the more over the top it is, the better your impression will be. Just like, yeah, this is a ferret. Just, and then, try to do Shakespeare from that. Just like, yeah, to be or not to be, that is the question. Still in the nasal cavity. You got to keep it up here. You got to keep it, hollow in the roof of your mouth too. Just like remember to, breathe. Breathing through yawn is a really good way to get your diaphragm going too. And that's a singing trick for those of you who don't sing. But it's really great. It's just a fantastic thing to do. But yeah, I think I've gone through a lot of the subject today. We're going on to almost 26 minutes. So I'm going to call it right there for video blog number 2 for today. And I just want to thank you all. Oh, and I forgot to show you this. It says the s'more the merrier, for those of you who are still celebrating a good solid Thanksgiving weekend. I hope you're enjoying yourself. I hope your holiday is delicious. And yeah, I know it's like this is more of a summer shirt, with the s'more the merrier, but at the same time, there's also marshmallows and candied yams, so you can't go wrong with that. But you got to remember, if you go home hungry during the Thanksgiving weekend, it's your own fault. If they don't roll you out the door, they'll ask you why you came in the first place. So anywho, I hope you're enjoying your Thanksgiving weekend, and also that's the end of video blog number 2. So thank you all for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit the like button down below. Share with your friends, your family, your acquaintances, your frenemies. Maybe that second cousin you don't talk to for 2 years at a time. But also be sure to subscribe down below as well for more blogs in the future. There's going to be definitely more blogs when it comes to this particular subject, as well as my little fun videos that I like to do. I recently did a tribute to a wonderful man who left a big hole in our hearts. Uh, you know, because he was just one of the greatest creators of all time, and he created his own universe, and we're gonna live throughout our lives in that solid universe, and that was Mr. Stan Lee. And I did a tribute to him, so I can post that in the comments too. But like I said, if you enjoy this, I encourage you to subscribe, like this video, and share with your friends. So that's all I got for today, and I hope you all have an awesome day, whatever you do. uh, Enjoy the rest of your Thanksgiving weekend, and I'll talk to you next time. All right. Take care, everybody. Mm. Cheers. Water. Also good to have inside and outside the booth. Later.